it mainly is industry people that poo-poo it. It tends to be mixologists, and it's kind of silly because I was saying again to colleagues, it's kind of what's in a name. People understand what you're getting or what you're not getting. The alcohol.
Hi, Low No Nation, and welcome to this week's conversation on the Low No Drinker podcast. Today I am chatting with the lovely Pooja Sharma-Jones. Pooja is the Chief Marketing Officer for Mocktails, the leading alcohol-free, ready-to-drink cocktail brand, taking the UK and now the US by storm. Mocktails is a collection of 5 cocktails that replicate drinks that we all know and love from our professional drinking days, whatever your reasons are for drinking less now. Some of my favourites in there include the Sainsbury, which is absolutely stunning, and I will get Pooja to take us through them all a little bit later. I'm really intrigued to talk to Pooja about the evolution of the company and the progression from a startup to a low-no staple in our homes. I haven't been to an event or a venue lately and not seen a can of mocktails across the bar. So that's absolutely fantastic. I've got a few questions for her. We're going to have a chat. Come and join us, pull up a chair, and let's say hello to Pooja. Hi, Pooja.
Hi, Denise. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, very welcome. So we were just having a bit of a chat before I pressed record. So I know that you've had a good start to the day. You're all energized. You're ready to rock and roll.
Been to the gym. I'd given you a bit of a warning and said I've got a cat, so yes. He might make an appearance.
What's the cat's name?
Past. His name's Fudge.
Did you name him or did your kids name him?
He's an RSPCA rescue, so he already was named Fudge, and we just stuck with it.
Okay.
But he might make an appearance.
Okay. So, Mocktails, Pooja, you guys are doing some amazing stuff. You're literally everywhere. So I want to come on to talk to you about how you did that. Maybe I'll get some tips for the magazine and how I can get everywhere as well.
Yeah, anytime.
Before we get into that, I love to start with a chat about you as a person and your journey and what it is that led you to where you are now. So appreciate that you're not the brand founder, but you have been an integral part of Mocktails for quite some time. So how did that all come about?
So, I've been with the brand about 3.5 years now. And prior to being at Mocktails, I think if I go through that, you'll sort of understand how I ended up with Mocktails. I've been in hospitality marketing for about 19 years. And I've always been in the F&B space. So whether that was F&B for Selfridges, Harrods, I kind of did the department store thing in Liberty. I was always like the marketing manager for those areas. And I always loved that more than anything else. So my peers did fashion and watches and jewelry, the kind of sexier considered stuff. But I was always like an F&B girl. And then from Harrods, I joined Soho House and the private members clubs, I'm sure you know. And that role was like, look, we are a private members club. We've got people paying their membership every month, but we own about 30 F&B propositions outside of the houses, which are public spaces. Would you be interested in coming, sort of heading up the marketing? And so I did that for about 1.5 years. And obviously very much a wet-led business, but alcohol wet-led. And from there, I then joined Drake & Morgan, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but they've got when I joined them, they had about 25 bars and restaurants in the city. And again, very much a wet-led, late night proposition, female owned. We worked with Diageo as our main brand partner, and they would put together our kind of cocktail menus and things for us and all of our training. So I've always been in that sort of F&B space. And then I kind of, took a break from Drake & Morgan and thought, actually, I've been doing this a while. Should I have a go at consulting? I've got a good black book. Why don't I give it a go? So I ended up doing that for about 4.5 years and didn't have a sexy company name. It was PSJ Marketing Consultancy for the purposes of invoicing. I didn't think it would be success. I didn't want to be an agency. I didn't want to hire people. But I had a good black book and ended up working back with Soho House and then Molly's Motel Diner concept. Worked with Richard Caring at Caprice on the Bills restaurants. Did a lot of independent stuff. So Sticks and Sushi in Soho, helped them open. worked at the brand called Souvlaki, Greek restaurant. So again, very much in the kind of food space. And then I started getting approached by a tea brand, Twist Teas. They came and said, look, would you consult for us? And actually worked with Luke Boase from Lucky Saint, literally, I'd say 5.5, 6 years ago, when it was just Luke. And interestingly enough, the PR agency they kind of referred me. And I remember saying to them, I don't think this is going to be something people are going to buy into, this non-alc stuff, non-alc beer. And I was a bit kind of like, I'm not sure about this. So anyway, I met Luke, heard about his story, and literally kind of worked with them for about 6-7 months. Like I said, literally when it was Luke, advising on social, helping them getting some listings, again, using that black book to kind of intro the product. And I could see the love for the product. It was like everyone that tried it was saying, this is really good for a non-alc beer. And this was at the time as well, and I think they shot the ranking campaign, and they were doing really, really amazing things. So that was my kind of first intro into, okay, non-alc could be something. And prior to that, I had a vegan client in Sloane Square called Wolf and Lamb, and I kind of had that same view about them. I was like, vegan. This was again about 8-9 years ago. I was like, no one's going to do that. So I'm happy to say, I was proved wrong on both accounts. And mocktails, I used to work with our current chief commercial officer, Ed, used to work with me at Harrods. So he was the head of wine and spirits buying. And he made the move over to mocktails, and he gave me a call and said, look, I know you're consulting. We're really, really small team at the moment. There's like myself, Bill, the founder, an ambassador. Would you be interested in kind of giving us some marketing support? And I think if I hadn't done the Lucky Saint stint, I might have been like, what are people going to buy into this? And like I do with any client, whether it's a restaurant or, a product, I was like, send me a case, let me try it. I'll let you know if I like it. And me and my husband obviously went, these are all right, that was our view. And we're both moderators, we do drink. So to try something that was like, that's not bad. So that started off as a 10-month consultancy project for mocktails, which was great in a way because it was like a long probation period. I got to really understand where the brand had come from, what they needed doing, understanding the culture of the company, getting, understanding what Bill was about. So, 5-6 months in, Ed kept saying, look, why don't you join us? Shut down the consultancy. And I was a bit like, look, I've got some live projects that I want to complete. Let me do those. And then, let's press the button on this when you're ready to do that. So, it's been 10 months as a consultant and then 3.5 years in total now as their CMO. So we're a small operation. We've got a US team and a UK team. The UK team is myself, Chief Commercial Officer, Brand Ambassador, Sales Director. And then in the US, we've got a Sales Director and an equivalent of me. Okay. So she sort of manages all of the US side for us. So that's the business in terms of its people.
Okay. Well, that's quite a journey that you've been on there yourself, Pooja, because I know most of all of those places that you've mentioned, having been in hospitality myself for a while, and you've worked with some quite phenomenal venues and establishments. So you must have gained quite a lot of insight into the industry. And so it's interesting to hear that you're now taking that and applying it to this fledgling category that you yourself were not quite entirely sure about. And I think a lot of people were not quite entirely sure about it to begin with, because, it's something new. And is it going to be a fad? Is it going to stick around? Are people going to buy into it? And I think those are all things that we can speak to. Can you tell me, before we get onto that, a little bit about the actual origin of the Mocktails brand itself and how that came about?
Yeah, so our founder, as we've mentioned, is a gentleman called Bill Gamelli. He's American. He lives out in Boston. And his sort of foray into non-alc, I kind of guess, went back to it in his 20s when he was at university. And his girlfriend at the time and now wife had a swimming scholarship. So she obviously was taking that very seriously, and she was taking her health very seriously. So she wasn't drinking, through their college years. And he was kind of enjoying himself. And he's always said, that's where he kind of thought, God, her options are really limited. She obviously wants to experience that university life, but she doesn't want to mess up this scholarship. So that's when he first kind of thought, her options are quite slim here. And then they experienced that same feeling when they got married and were thinking about having a family. And, she wasn't drinking. And he was like, well, actually, I might join you on that as well. And I guess in the US, but 10 years ago, maybe the options were very much kind of cranberry juice, lots of high fructose corn syrup in products. And he just thought, God, this is really lacking. And his idea kind of stemmed from that personal need. And they had a conversation with, family, friends, and they were like, look, we kind of feel the same. Why don't we do something ourselves? And Bill's background isn't F&B, it's Wall Street. So, he understands kind of the financial side of running a business, but he had this real appetite for, there's got to be something that we can do. And fast forward to sort of 2018, he found that America at the time wasn't really ready to embrace that non-alc movement. The ingredients weren't there. The sort of the top level premium quality of ingredients he wanted were not available. So all of the production takes place in the UK. So in effect, they had a bit of a rebrand, I guess, in around 2018. And it went from being in a kind of cocktail shaker format. It really has changed in terms of like where it is now in terms of the cans that are behind you. But it was in a kind of ready to drink cocktail shaker type format. And that all changed to sort of bottles when they came to the UK, and now we're in cans. So that's literally how the sort of brand came to be, just that own personal desire and thinking there's got to be something for people that want to be part of the party but aren't drinking.
That's really cute. That's like it's like a love story to his wife, isn't it? Because I hear a lot of stories of brand founders who are doing it because they themselves don't drink or they want something for their own. But this is the first story I've heard of somebody creating something for someone that they love and wanted to support them. And
Yeah,
I think
totally.
it's amazing. It speaks so much to this industry that we're in now, though, and the fact that it goes beyond the individual's needs and looking at this culture shift to the people that are around us and how our choices and what we're doing is impacting lots of other people.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's not only commendable, obviously, that he's done this, but it's that he's taken this and then grown it to something that can help so many people as well.
Yeah.
which is lovely. It's interesting that you say that in the US at the time, it just wasn't really, well, I guess, viable to produce and to have the business be based as that main selling point. I was going to ask you, the differences that you're seeing between the UK market and the US market for you guys and how you're being received. Is it still that the UK is more open to it? Are the US fully embracing you now? What are the sort of challenges that you're seeing in one versus the other?
Yeah, I think it's flipped. I think certainly we're finding in the US the sales are greater. Obviously, it's a larger territory, but I think grocery really embraced the product. So we are in like Total Wine and More, Walmart stores, and people are very, very receptive to the product. And I think it's not to say the UK aren't, but I think the buying teams and some of the outlets that we speak to, whether that's in grocery or hospitality, it's a harder sell. And you find that you have to have, you're knocking on those doors for over a year in some cases. And I just think maybe the US do embrace the RTDs more so than the UK. So I've definitely seen that shift. We were talking the other day internally about our name, because I think sometimes people kind of go, I don't like the word mocktail, I don't like it. And, that's our brand name. And I think it mainly is industry people that poo-poo it. It tends to be mixologists and, and it's kind of silly because, I was saying again to colleagues, it's kind of what's in a name. People understand what you're getting or what you're not getting, the alcohol. And I think again in the US, it's quite a commonly used term for a non-alcoholic drink. I'm not saying that's what's holding anything back in the UK. I just think our distribution networks are quite different. It is a more saturated market, I think, now in the UK with non-alc. When I joined Mocktails, I was looking at Better Without app back then, and there were probably 70 brands, and now there's probably like over 300. So, there are a lot of players in the space, and I think we're all getting savvy with our marketing and our content, and we're getting our distribution lined up, and it's all about those firsts. It's like, okay, who can get into Waitrose, who can get into Tesco, and those shelf spaces are tiny. You're asking a buyer to take something else off the shelf and put you on, and it's quite hard to demonstrate that rate of sale if that's that first supermarket you're speaking to. So you're winning them over on taste, and you're meeting with those buyers. And I don't have that direct one-to-one with those teams, but Harry, our sales director, does. And we're tiny, so you can see the kind of pitch decks that are being put together, and the length of time it takes to get even a meeting. And I think the difference that I see with working in buyers in retail is, those buyers are very open to marketing, giving them ideas. And, they obviously would do their trend visits and go to Europe and come back and say, we're going to bring this chocolate in or range this product. But marketing were also quite integral in telling them, this is what's happening in the marketplace. You should be bringing these products in. And I'm not sure whether maybe some of the buyers in the sort of supermarket structure are that decision maker, and it's kind of what they want to range. I'm not sure how much input they get from other teams. And I've seen that when we've done events and we've met people who might be the marketing manager for a brand or a brewery, and they're like, this product's amazing. Here's my details for the buyer. And then you just get a door closed because they're like, no, not ready to do that. But that person in the team is like, yeah, I can see why we should be doing this. So, I think there are those sort of marketing challenges that I think exist. And then you've got that, an open-minded group of people, maybe more so in the US in terms of the buying and the distribution, where they're like, yeah, I'm going to completely embrace this. I get it. Let's list it. So it's just taking a bit longer in the UK, but we're getting there. I mean, you said there's not an event that you don't go to that we're not present at, and it's still trying to build that awareness. And that's certainly what I spend quite a lot of my time trying to do. I'm like, yes, it is about sales, but still, it's still a brand that people are kind of like, oh, I'm starting to see it in places and I'm becoming familiar with it. So, we'll always be doing those kind of events like CAM or, other trade events and other consumer events to keep building that brand awareness.
I think that there's a couple of really interesting things that you mentioned there that I'd love to unpack. You mentioned the name, so the brand name, Mocktails. And I think that's a really interesting point that you brought up about some people do poo-poo the term mocktails.
Yeah.
Don't call it a mocktail. It's not mocking anything.
Yeah.
It must be quite challenging for you working in marketing a brand that has this name. On the flip side, though, I remember getting into a conversation with somebody and saying, isn't it great that we're at that stage that we can have a conversation about whether or not we should call it a mocktail or an alcohol-free cocktail?
Alcohol-free or non-alcoholic. And I see article after article, I really do, on people sort of having that conversation around the labelling around a product without alcohol in it. And I think you're totally right. If it's being debated, it's a good thing. If it's being talked about and the press are writing about it and industry leaders are having an opinion on it, why not? It's bringing that conversation forward, again.
It is. It's like, what's that saying? The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about. So, if they're having this conversation and then your brand is popping up there, then, it comes down to, at the end of the day, for me, whether or not you want to use the term mocktails, and to be honest, I don't really care as long as the drinks are good. It comes down to just that. Is the liquid in the vessel good? Am I going to have something that I can enjoy and that's going to make me feel like I am part of whichever situation I'm in, and I can have an adult drink?
Yeah, exactly. It's what's in the can, not what's in the name. It's what's in the can. So,
a mocktail by any other name would taste just as sweet.
Well, there you go. So we're going to keep busy on that. I think that'll be our next marketing campaign.
So before we jump back into the, because I want to talk a bit more about the position and speaking in the supermarkets and the misconception that people have about the low-no brands in the supermarkets versus elsewhere. Let's talk a little bit about the range. So those who are watching on YouTube rather than listening on the RSS will be able to see behind me a lovely array of mocktails. And I said to Pooja before we press record, in a recent interview, I managed to drop cans on the floor, which sprayed all over my lovely floor. So let's see this time if I can do it painting my carpet. So let's have a little chat about what we have in the range, and I will show people some of the cans that we
Brilliant.
have here. So we start with this one here.
So
And I will
that
put up
is
some
the
other
Moxco Mule. We do like a play on words. So that is your kind of non-alcoholic equivalent of a Moscow Mule.
Fantastic.
And they are all 200 ml cans. They are nitro-charged.
What does that mean for people that don't understand?
Yeah,
please?
it's on our can. It's a selling point for us, but obviously you don't have space on a can to necessarily tell the customer what that means.
In detail.
But basically, our cans are nitrogen charged. There's a widget in the base of the can, so when you do open a can, you should hear that sort of tsh sound. But what that widget does is releases nitrogen when you open the can, and it just gives you a bit more of an elevated mouthfeel, a bit more of a cocktail experience. So our products are designed to be pop and pour, so you can do a grab and go and enjoy it as it is. But we kind of advise, whether it's hospitality or bars, even at home, use a shaker if you can, because you'll just get a bit more of a froth, whether it's the espresso. You just get a bit of a different dimension to the product, but that's what the nitrogen adds. And I think we were one of the first, if not the first, non-alc RTDs in cocktail form to do that. I have to be careful because I think there are a few other nitro brands, but I think we were the first in that space. And in your hand there is the Metropolitan. Again, that's quite a popular flavor in the US. Again, different flavors work in different markets. There's the sangria, alcohol-free sangria, which is, it's good. I've actually just loaded up my fridge with a few of those.
It is gorgeous.
Is that your favourite one?
Definitely my favourite.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Margarita, the green one. Again, you can add alcohol to these, so that's a preference. That's your own choice. If you want to add tequila, you can, and we recommend you add a salt rim to that. And then the espresso martini. So our latest launch, probably one of the best sellers. Not my favorite, only because for me, coffee is a warm drink, and it's my morning drink. So I tend to have quite a lot of the espressos left over when I get my stock delivered to me, and everything else I'm a big fan of. So 5 flavors in the range. Like you said in your intro, they're the kind of most commonly loved cocktails in alcoholic form, and obviously we replicated that in non-alc. At the moment, we are working with 5. We may add more flavors further down the line. I don't think we're talking kind of this year or early next year, but that may happen. But at the moment, we've got these 5 flavors that work really well. And
so you've decided to go with those sort of well-known flavors. So, your Sainsbury is to play on a sangria, and the Moscow Mule and the margarita. Are you finding that that's helping people to really resonate with the brand and with the drinks, because you can then just go, right, I know what this is supposed to taste like?
It's simple. We're not trying to do complicated flavors and recipes. And we worked very closely with, she's a top bartender in the US called Ezra Starr. And she's now in Hong Kong and has a bar out there called Mostly Harmless. She's worth checking out. I think she's a Hall of Fame inductee in Tales of the Cocktail, which is quite a big event in the US. So we did have help creating these flavors. And actually, because they're non-carbonated, you can kind of make them what you want them to be. So if you do want if you want a kind of picante style drink, which our house did, you can kind of add the chili, and you can add lots of pantry items. And that's why they work really well in hospitality and at home, because you can make more seasonal serves out of them. And there's quite a few recipes on the website if you did want to do that. So you can have them as they come or take it up a notch.
Amazing. And you're right. I have done it at home, and adding the ice in the shaker really quickly. Or if people don't have a shaker, a jam jar with a good lid, a bit of ice, give it a shake, and then you get that lovely frothy head on it, and then you get that texture and mouthfeel.
There is a difference. There is a difference between the shaker. But, of course, they're available. The espresso is available in Sainsburys. So you want to talk about that in a bit more detail. So we have it on D2C, we have it on Amazon, and then we have the 4-pack of the espresso in Sainsburys for now.
So I wanted to have a chat about Sainsburys then, and sort of supermarkets in general, because there's this conception, isn't there, that once a non-alc brand has made it to the supermarket shelves, that you've made it now, that's it, they're everywhere, they must be making millions. Are you making millions
No.
from being in Sainsbury's?
No, I'd love to say we are. It's a real challenge, and so Harry and Ed work their socks off getting the product into Sainsbury's. And again, there's hesitancy. There's like, okay, let's start with one SKU, and we weren't doing 4-packs at this point, so we created a 4-pack for Sainsbury's, and it retails for £11. And the challenge that any brand of our size will have in that supermarket is that we don't have massive budgets. We don't. So you get through that really hard stage of knocking on the buyer's door 5 million times, getting a meeting in for a tasting, then waiting another 3 months, then that purchase order comes through, and then the product's on the shelf. And then from my perspective, I'm going, okay, well, how do we tell people that we're in Sainsbury's? Because to be in the Nectar scheme costs a fortune. To take out adverts on their digital screens in store costs a fortune. To do in-store sampling costs a fortune. So, you're kind of challenged to go, well, how do we drive the rate of sale here? That's the challenge. So I don't think any of the brands in the low and no aisle like us are making millions, but you've just got to keep working so hard, go back to the buyer and say, look, we know this is now selling, because what you do as a small brand, when you're in 350 Sainsbury stores, which we were in, you're going into your own store and going, right, I think 10 were in this week, I can see 3 are left, brilliant, because they're not giving you these reports, because you're not a Diageo, or you're not getting these sort of detailed reports from the buyers.
Right.
I mean, having said that, we recently did get some data which was really interesting for us. And I'm not sure how much of that I should share, because it's obviously sort of category data. But it was like, oh, okay, this information is really useful for our next pitch. So that kind of data was really helpful. And I think the buyer of non-alc, we're always told via data that it's the Gen Z, Gen Z, millennial. But our price point for a premium product is probably considered a little bit high. In Sainsbury's, for example, it's £11 for 4 cans. You're talking, £2.50. A Gen Z millennial isn't really going to be spending that. So, from our kind of marketing angle, at one point we were like, we need to be targeting the kids, the TikTokers, the Gen Zs, and then we're sort of going, oh, actually, we're finding that it's the more older customer that has got that disposable income, that's doing their weekly shop in Sainsbury's and probably going, oh, I've got friends over for dinner, I'm getting some wine, I'm going to get this, and spending £11 it isn't a challenge. So, that's certainly from my perspective gone, oh, okay, we were pigeonholing a certain group of people as being our target audience, and actually it's not. So yeah, I mean, getting into the supermarkets is fantastic. It just means it's nationwide, it's accessible. Obviously you can buy off the website, but then you've got to keep working very, very hard to try and drive that continued awareness. And you can obviously use your own channels and your social media and things like that. But I think, we always get those rate cards in and go, okay, when we're in a position to do it, we will. But you've got to work really hard at doing that via your own channels.
I think it's hard for the average consumer to understand just how much of a challenge it is to get your brand onto the supermarket shelves. And I think it's really important for us to use this moment to let those who are listening know that if you see your favorite brands on the shelves in the supermarkets, it's not enough to just go, oh yeah, that's really good. You need to go and buy it.
Yeah.
Because it's so, the cost, speaking to somebody else who was telling me some of the costs involved in getting listed, and it's eye-watering. And it's such a tipping point, it's such a barrier for a lot of low and no brands that make it very difficult for them to be showcased within our industry, because they're not in a position to do what you've done and go, okay, right, we're into one of the biggest supermarkets in the country. Yeah. We're getting some eyeballs. But the eyeballs alone are not enough. And I think what we need to remember as consumers is that we have to vote with our wallets. We have to make our preferences heard. And the more we buy the brands that we see in our low and no aisles or columns or little tiny shelf, depending on where you go, the more these supermarkets and retailers will realize that people want it, and then they'll start giving more space.
And I think, interestingly, you and I were both at the CAM event last
Yeah.
week, the Low and No, and we've been present at that event for 3 years. So I've certainly seen the type of delegates change. I said to you, I worked for Soho House, back in 2016. Nobody from Soho House would have ever come to a Low and No conference. And to see then the drinks buyer be there, it's like, this is amazing, because, I remember, I know Amanda Thompson, Naughty Thompson and Scott very well, going back several years. And she used to come and meet me at Soho House and how do I get Naughty into Soho House? And I'd be like, it's not going to happen. We've got this massive deal with Bacardi. They throw cash at us and they give us all the stock for our, after parties for the Brit Awards and whatever we were doing. And, now to see that buyer come there, and again, more supermarket buyers were present and more, venue operators were present, which is really, really good. It's really positive. They're making time in their day. That was a full day event virtually to join and understand, okay, yeah, this is a growth. It's not it's a continually growing category. And are going to be buying into it more. So it's a really positive step that we're seeing. And that's why we do CAM every year, because we see more and more of the people that we want to engage with and build leads with attending those events.
It was really lovely to see such big pub companies and bars, and like you said, the chap from Soho House are coming along and really embracing the possibilities that Low and No can bring, because it's more than just having a drink for the sober person that might come into the bar on the odd occasion. It's no longer about that. It's now about providing something to help the social experience of all of your guests in your space, isn't it? Because it's more than just one person now.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing, and it was just like, Harry was like, "Do you know him?" I was like, "No, he's new, not that old." But that was great, and hopefully they'll start adding, more products. And I'm always, when I'm on holiday and stuff, I'm always looking through the menus, and it's exciting. I always take pictures of things and send it to the brands, that are in our set, and be like, "Oh, hey, look, you're in this menu here, and you're here." It's just it's still nice to see that our fellow brands in the space, we're all getting listed, and it's a very supportive community. I think you probably found that as well. All of the non-alc brands are like, we're sharing of information in as much as we can. And there's a WhatsApp group on called Kindred Spirits, and it's about 450 members from drinks brands, alcohol brands, non-alc, soft drinks. And that's a great space where we share information about, has anyone got a lead? Has anyone got this contact for this venue? Has anyone got a printer that can do coasters for me? Or has anyone done this trade show? What do you think? Was it good? Was it shit? So I think that the network around us is like phenomenal in terms of that sort of sharing of information and just helping each other out. And that doesn't always exist in any other sort of sector I've been in.
That's absolutely brilliant, because it's that a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah,
philosophy, isn't it? Is that if you can help each other, it's quite like what the craft beer cohort did a while ago. It's sharing ideas and creativity and ways to help spread this information to more people.
Yeah,
I really liked what you said about your shifting your marketing from the Gen Zs and the millennials to the Gen Xers. I'm a Gen Xer myself. I'm 45 years old. Put it out there.
Me too, I think. I'm 40.
Yeah, you forget, don't you?
Yeah, I'm like Gen X. So can't keep up, can you?
I know. I only actually just learned the differences of the generations a couple of months ago. But I'm a big advocate of this. Now, I know that the numbers say that it is the millennials and the Gen Z who are leading this low and no alcohol movement. And to me, yes, I can see the statistics, and I know that they are taking far better care of themselves in their 20s to 30s than our generation ever did, which is absolutely fabulous. But what I think is really interesting is that you said that it's actually the older generation who are going to be driving the economy of low and no, because it is those who have a steady job, and we know that our younger generations are struggling with work. It is those that have a disposable income.
Yeah.
It's those who prefer the finer things in life, who are prepared to pay for quality, who
Yeah.
will actually put their hands in their pockets and pay the cost that it's required to create these drinks. Because a lot of people don't understand. I still get asked, why do alcohol-free
Yeah.
drinks cost so much if there's
Yeah.
no alcohol in them? I'm sure you must get this
Yeah. I mean, the
question a lot.
alcohol's the cheapest part of, the drink, an alcoholic drink, and yeah, we do get sort of, when we've done, our Facebook ads, and, people comment and go, I'm not paying £30 for 12 cans, on your website. It appears dear to people. But, it is, that the best products are used in our drinks, and all of that costs money, all that sourcing and all those checks that go into it. And yeah, we get that all the time, and I'm sure other brands in the space do as well. But there's no booze in it. How can it cost so much? But yeah, that is a challenge. But we are a premium RTD brand, and we've just got to work harder at pushing why you're paying £2.50 per can or 30 per 12. And it is in the taste. You can taste the difference. The product is gluten free and free of preservatives, and it's made using natural ingredients, and that costs money.
Absolutely. It costs money to get for, and when you're not having alcohol in your drink, in your product, people again don't necessarily understand that alcohol does a lot in a drink other than just get you drunk.
Yeah.
It adds more body, it adds texture, it carries flavor, it keeps it safer for longer. So
Yeah.
these are all challenges that you're having to find ways
Yes.
to combat, right?
Totally. And I think, I know we've touched on Sainsbury's, but we've also recently been listed in Metropolitan pubs, which is part of Green King. So we're in their 60 sites nationwide. And again, going back to the non-carbonated and how do you make it an elevated product, a lot of operators come to us and say, we want to offer it as a non-alc, but we would like to offer it as a cocktail as well. And, pitch it at that sort of price point. And that's obviously their prerogative. They're buying the stock from us. They can kind of do what they want with it when they have it. But you can see that the price points of the mocktails are around £8.50, £9 as a non-alc. And again, going back to that price point, can £2.50, a drink in a bar £9. People sort of go, oh my god. But we pitch those sites very carefully. There are 60 sites, not all of them are priced the same, so you have to kind of tailor those price points around the country, because people will just have a heart attack. Just I'm not paying that. But they see the difference once they've tried it.
Yeah. You've used the acronym RTD for a couple of times. Just
Yeah.
for those who might be listening that don't understand what that means, can you just explain it to them?
Yes, apologies for that. Ready to drink. So
Yeah.
nothing too complicated. In our world, we're around that all the time, but ready to drink. So that's our proposition. It is pop and pour, like I've said, or put it in a shaker and you're ready to go.
Yeah. So I love an RTD, so ready to drink, because I love a picnic. I'm
Yes.
at that stage in my life now. I've got 2 little kids. When the sun is shining, one of the easiest things for us to do as a family is, I live next to a lovely park with a bit of a river. It's nice to put a couple of things in a bag, go sit by the river, put a blanket out, give them a ball to go and run around with.
Yeah.
My husband and I sit and, as you say, pop and pour. Obviously, we can't use the shaker and such when we're out in the park, but it's really nice just having great tasting drinks that you can just sit and relax with.
Yes.
And you don't have to do anything else to it.
Totally.
And, especially...
and I think I'm quite lazy as well. So whilst there are amazing brands in the space, I've got to say that probably the ones that I consume and enjoy, because they are ready to drink. Yeah. I love obviously mocktails. I think Trip do a great job. The CBD doesn't do anything for me. I don't drink it for that purpose. I just think they taste nice. Yeah. And I love Pentire. They're kind of coastal spritz. But again, that's because I'm lazy. But there are obviously amazing spirits and beers. But yeah, I think my fridge is mainly filled with Trip and Pentire, as well as mocktail in can, just easy.
Yeah. Well, that you've jumped on my go-to question, which I ask everybody, which is my barbecue question. So I always say, if it's a nice sunny day and you're off to a barbecue, what low no drinks do you like to enjoy other than your own fabulous brand? So is that your list? Is it Pentire and Trip, or are you taking anything else?
Trip, and when I was pregnant, because as a moderator, I tend to drink prosecco. That's my tipple.
Yep.
I drank a lot of naughty, and I think Amanda's done a great job on, non-alc sparkling. So yes, those three. I think Pentire, Trip, naughty. I mean, there's so many great brands, aren't they? Like Bax Botanicals is lovely, Everleaf is amazing, but they're the ones that I would go and buy.
Yeah. You mentioned Amanda a couple of times. She's done phenomenal. She is one of the, a go-to name, isn't she, in the alcohol-free bubble space, wine space. If you're looking for a quality, it's naughty, and they get recommended quite a lot when I ask this question to other brands, which is lovely that we're having these brands now that are starting to emerge as leaders in their categories. You must have seen a lot of change from your initial thoughts of not sure if this is going to take off to now. I know you can't, you don't have a crystal ball as such, but what are your thoughts as to where this industry is going? What do you think the next few years are looking like for both for mocktails and for low no in general?
I think it's definitely going to continue to grow, and I think at some point we may not even have things like cam, and because the category it's cemented itself, it's there and it sits alongside all the other categories. It's moved on so much from when I joined, and I think there probably will be more brands in the space, which I think the bigger players will keep bringing out non-alc versions, which is brilliant because it brings eyes into the category, but then it does present challenges for the sort of smaller brands. I think we'll see a change or I hope there is, in the marketing of drinks in venue. I mean, the one thing that pisses me off a bit, is that I get so many hospitality newsletters because I love restaurants and bars and pubs. Yeah. And it's like free beer for Father's Day, free Prosecco for Mom. And it's like, I don't get it. You've got this marketing team there. Why can't you just say a free beverage of your choice, up to the value of, if you need to stipulate a value, or say a beer or an alcohol-free beer? And I just think that there's a long way to go in terms of, I think, because obviously I'm talking to you from a marketing perspective, where the marketing sits for low and no within, it's very well ranging it, but then if you don't talk about it, it defeats the purpose. So I think that needs to improve, and I think it probably will. If any marketeers and hospitality venues are listening to me, you can be a champion of change and push forward that message. Because there is money. There's a huge amount of disposable income for people who aren't drinking and they're prepared to spend that cash. So if you can tap into that audience, you will, drive your revenue and sites. I think it will continue to grow. Like I said, I think those trade shows, Cam probably won't say that, will not exist in a year or two. No, I think they're probably going to do one next year, but they probably won't exist in a couple of years because everybody is bought into the concept. The US, for us, I think, is still going to be a major player for mocktails. I think the Middle East will be an area of growth for us. Again, they are very receptive to the word mocktail, more so. And I think more flavors, hopefully, but just a continuing, upward trajectory for all the brands in the space.
That's an interesting prediction about the not necessarily needing as many trade shows or no dedicated mammoth events, because I like the theory that the adoption of the industry will be so widespread that we won't need to other ourselves by having just a low-no event. We can actually go ahead and do this as part of beverage in general.
Yes.
I think that would be.
Yeah. Let's see, but we're getting there. We've come a long way as a category, and I think just like I said, from my perspective, just the marketing around, it's getting better, but I think a lot of the pubs are still sort of churning out that beer for dad, prosecco for mom, and not really thinking about that completely missed audience in the middle.
And I think a lot of people, a lot of consumers are starting to get really frustrated with that. I see a lot of posts on social media about people getting really pissed off about the mummy wine culture, as it's been dubbed, and that dads just want beer, and that mums deserve prosecco because parenting is so hard that we have to numb ourselves with booze. I mean, I shy very much away from talking about parenting and that sort of thing in terms of alcohol, because as a parent myself, I know it's a sensitive area to suggest to somebody that their alcohol choices are making them a bad parent. And then on the flip side, you've got these people saying, no, come and drink more booze with your child. And it's very much a mixed message in terms of, what's the right note to be putting out there to people. I like what you said about, let's make this communication piece just more open. Come and have a drink. Come and have a free drink with or without booze.
I mean, I just to pick out another brand, I think it's Brasserie Blanc. They do a steak night Wednesday, and it's ordered two main steaks off the a la carte and get a complimentary bottle of red. And you just think, well, it's Wednesday for a start, and I might not want a bottle of red. And there may be that option when you get into the venue, but again, it's like, you're sort of trying to entice people with, alcohol, and all this data is telling you maybe not to do that. So maybe those people should be going to these sorts of CAM events and finding out a bit more.
It would be interesting to know, actually, if they do have bottles of alcohol-free red that people can choose.
I wouldn't know. I mean, they certainly don't tell you that in their newsletters and their social. It's, a bottle of red. But, again, it's midweek. Yeah. What are you trying to do to people?
Think about the money that they could be bringing in as well, though, for people who don't want to have that, who on Thursday morning have got a massive presentation, or they've got to take the kids to school, or they've got a big sporting event on the weekend. So for whatever reason, maybe they're not teetotal, but for these 3 days, they don't want to have any alcohol, but they do want to go out for a really nice steak, but they don't want to feel shortchanged because they can't have the bottle which is baked into the price. Come in, have your steak and get a free bottle of red wine with or without alcohol.
Yeah.
Just putting it there so that people know that they've got that option.
I mean, the one thing, I'm sorry, I know I'm probably babbling on, but again, because I'm in the space, I'm always looking at menus and adverts and things. And I said to my husband, we were watching Coronation Street, don't judge me, but obviously, a key part of that show is the Rover's Return. And, they're always going in there getting a hot pot. Pint, please, Betty. But actually, the other day, one of the characters came in and said, I'll have a pint zero, please. Obviously a made-up kind of brand. But I sort of was quite happy. I nudged my husband and went, that's so good. I said, that's so good. Like, it's a pub. It's based, all of the community, part of the show is based in the pub. But he came in and ordered a pint zero. And I was like, okay, good job.
Didn't they actually put Heineken on the bar there for a while? I'm sure I saw something somewhere that they had a Heineken Zero tap on the bar behind the Rover's Return for a little while.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up there because that rings a bell. But yeah, absolutely. These programs, your Emmerdales and EastEnders, they are an integral part of the cultural zeitgeist of this country. It is where people go and sort of say, these are people that look like me, that remind me of me. Excuse me. So having these drinks, be they real ones or make-believe brands, which is obviously understandable because, advertising and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But having these make-believe alcohol-free brands where it just normalizes it. And that's it. Again, we just need to keep normalizing that it is okay to choose low or no for any reason, for any length of time. And we no longer need to justify that choice.
No. No, I mean, I had a friend and she sort of prepared us all and said, I'm going to drive, I'll pick you all up. I've got a shift tomorrow, she's a nurse. And I just said, Jen, you don't have to explain yourself. And I said, I don't know if that's because I'm in the space, but I would never pressure you anyway. I said, but don't feel like you have to go, I'm driving because I've got a shift tomorrow. And, she was kind of doing it repeatedly. And I just said, you'll never get that pressure from me. If you say it's not for you today, fine. But I think that comes from, being in the space and being aware and, supporting those who are either sober or moderating and not making them feel guilty if they don't want to drink on a night out.
just having the ability just to say, I don't feel like it, I don't fancy it. And that should be the end of the conversation. You mentioned moderating, because the majority of people who are buying your amazing drinks, Pooja, are also buying alcoholic drinks as well. The studies have showed it's 95+% of people that buy low and no beers and wines and spirits still buy alcoholic beverages as well. So it is that moderating middle who are leading this. So we should be encouraging them to feel like it's okay to be on that moderation journey on any given day. And it's not just the fully sober or the fully teetotal or those in recovery that are going, I want these drinks. It's people, and that's why our bars and restaurants need to recognize this, because that person who comes in and has a great alcohol-free experience on Wednesday will come back and have a great alcohol-full experience on Saturday.
Totally. I missed that point.
There's so much great stuff happening. I think that mocktails are doing phenomenal. You have won, I tried to count how many awards on your website, and I got tired.
There are quite a few. I mean, awards are a different thing, aren't they, as well? You know, we've tried to cut back a bit this year as part of the strategy, but you know, the US, we've picked up double golds and things like the TAG Spirit Awards. You know, we've won a few things in the UK. We're to hear back from Great Taste. I think they released their results beginning of August. And that would be wonderful. I mean, I'm a sucker for a Great Taste label on a product. You know, I definitely will pick up that jam over that jam if they've won something. So that would be a nice one to pick up a sticker for. But yeah, there are a few accolades there in the collection. So we'll hopefully add to those over the years.
It's a fantastic sign when a brand can win several awards across several different types of organizations, because it shows that the diversity of the range. And I think you guys have done absolutely amazing. I'm really excited to hear that you might be bringing out some more within the next couple of years.
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, I'm going to be watching this space, and obviously you'll give me the exclusive, right?
Totally. You get me back on. We'll do a tasting.
There we go. Pooja, for those who want to go and find out more about you, they want to check out your awards, they want to buy some amazing ready-to-drink cocktails, where should they go?
If you are in the UK, it's drinkmocktails.co.uk.com in the US. We're doing a discount code at the moment, 20% off. So if you put Cheers20 in at checkout, you'll get 20% off and free shipping. You can buy via Amazon. You can go into Sainsbury's. And if you happen to be in hospitality and in London, you can go to Birdie's, Vagabond, and any of the Metropolitan sites and try a mocktail there.
Like I said, you're everywhere.
Everywhere. Going to be in more places to come.
Of course. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for your time today. It has been lovely.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.